Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the discussion of, it's not a movie that lit the box office world on fire, but it's one that's done under the great Henson lineage. So therefore, we have to talk about it. We're talking about the Happytime murders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, folks, this is one of those movies where it's like, if it weren't for the crew behind it, I doubt that we'd even bother giving it a full review, a full podcast. But, since it is Brian Henson developing this thing, and since, we are huge Muppet fans on the channel, it's kind of been in the back burner. There's been other things that we needed to get out of the way before we got to this, but now that those things are out of the way, and it's a shame, Dragon, because this thing is not the box office hit that we were expecting it to be, and it's almost out of theaters at this point. It really kind of came and went. But, that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. We're a little late to the party, but, let's, we can still kind of break it down. So Happytime Murders, it's essentially the puppet version of Sausage Party by all intents and purposes, except it doesn't make Dragon physically ill just to think about it like Sausage Party does.
Very true.
And I gotta say, when I first heard about it, I was not very impressed. I was kind of just like, well, literally the only reason they're doing this is because of said Sausage Party. But then I heard that Brian Henson was involved. Of course, Brian Henson, son of Jim Henson, director of Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Christmas Carol. Two of the most, if not the best, the most nostalgic Muppet movies for me. And
Christmas Carol is great.
Yeah. And Treasure Island is very nostalgic. Treasure Island was the first Muppet movie I saw in theaters. So
I most love VHS of the Muppets, VHS tape love for Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah, I can see that. And who doesn't love a good Tim Curry villain?
Of course. Oh, man, Tim Curry's performance is really good, man.
But,
that kid stunk, though.
He did. I won't deny that. The one thing that Brian Henson has going for him is set design. And so I was a little worried that since this takes place in modern LA, is it going to get into kind of the crazy, like, otherworldly, larger-than-life sets? And it really doesn't, unfortunately. But that being said, Dragon, should we give our thesis statement on how we feel about the actual movie, or should we hold off on that?
Well, you know what? We might as well just kind of like, based on your expectations and such going in like this point. Yeah, sure. So I guess.
All right, so going in, it was actually my dad who wanted to see this, so I might not have even seen it if it wasn't for him, but he really wanted to go see it, so I wasn't expecting much, and what I came away with, I liked it better than I thought I would, but it was still a little bit on the mediocre side. It wasn't bad. I will say it did have some shades of Roger Rabbit that I appreciated. It did kind of stick very close to the film noir vibe. It very much committed to the film noir element to it. And it did have some interesting plot twists to it. But on a whole, I think it's just the movie's just kind of there. I think it could have pushed things a little harder. I think it could have been a little bit more dramatic. I think it could have been a little funnier. And at the end of the day, Dragon, this is a Melissa McCarthy movie, and I am not a Melissa McCarthy fan by any stretch, not just because of Ghostbusters, but just I don't like her, period. So I think that's where a lot of my just kind of meh for this movie comes from. I really like most of the puppet stuff. I really do. It's just, I'm just not big into Melissa McCarthy humor, and this movie has a lot of Melissa McCarthy humor. So once again, if it wasn't for the Brian Henson name, I don't know if I even would have seen this in theaters.
Well, let's see. My side of things going into this, so I was very intrigued by kind of this R-rated Muppeteering by Brian Henson, the man himself. And when I heard that name, I was like, oh my god, it looks like. I mean, is it true? And like, oh my god, yes, it's the handiwork of Brian Henson. The Henson name is attached to this film. It's coming from the source, darn it. And I mean, I'll admit, I was kind of in a place where, again, I didn't see this the first week it came out. I mean, I made an attempt to, it just kind of fell through, but I wasn't like, crestfallen. I didn't really force it, where I could have lived without seeing this, but again, here's the thing, the marketing was kind of an earworm for me. They kind of made me, okay, I'm going to take another run at it. seeing it. Where again, the marketing was like all over the place, and like did the interviews with the with the puppets, and you had the like adults who did a few promos and some hilarious PSAs. I mean, I was like, again, it was like that earworm, like if it wasn't just in my face all the time, like, yeah, I mean, that's filled a lot of potential. It's hitting a lot of my sensibilities, like a detective movie with kind of a, if not animated, then, kind of a puppet version of a detective PI movie. It's like, yeah, it's kind of what I want to see. So I was kind of drawn to it, on that level. And again, with the whole, like, yeah, Henson's involved. I was kind of waiting to hear reviews from it, but I was just like, you know what, God darn it, the Muppets have me. The Hensons have done right by me for so many years. I gotta give them a shot. So I saw it was kind of more of a social experiment, if anything. And being frank, just kind of seeing it as part of a social experiment. Because I guess my thesis is the thing that kind of fascinated me about the movie, and where I'm kind of coming down on it is, this to me is. See, I hate something like Sausage Party with every fiber of my being, because it's something that's just it's a parody. It's a laziest version of a parody. It's a parody that runs out its welcome within like the trailer, because outside that trailer, the premise does not justify itself. And again, there was so much potential with the first CG, computer generated R-rated full-length animated film. There was so much potential with that, and it was just squandered. And that really infuriated me. And they're riding off of they're basically insulting Pixar's coattails. And I felt that was all. Again, you have an opportunity to do something big here. You're just going to waste it by just kind of taking an obvious joke, and even if you're going to take that premise, you're going to try to justify that for a whole movie and get into this premise that no one in their right minds could buy. And the Happytime, on the other hand, again, it's from the originators. It basically justifies, it justifies its medium, justifies what it's doing, and again, it's taking puppetry into a level that we've all seen it done hundreds of times. And it's kind of taking it into this into kind of this new area that we haven't really seen it done a lot before. I mean, to be fair, I think the only time we've really seen something close to this has been like Avenue Q or something.
Oh yeah, Avenue Q is definitely the predecessor to this in a lot of ways.
I mean, if you want to be technically have like the crank calls, like the crank yankers thing, whatever they call that thing.
Yeah. Oh God.
My point is, we've seen things that tried to be more adult in puppetry, but just done kind of like it wasn't like the Henson touch. It wasn't like the kind of the top tier of like, if you're going to do puppetry, that's how you do it. We haven't really seen that quality really applied to something, kind of applied to a film. So
we even saw the Muppets themselves try to do a more adult orientated show to mixed results.
That's the thing. I think you and I
like that show. I still maintain that show had more hits than misses.
I'm with you. Exactly. I'm with you absolutely on that, T. Where I like that too. And 9% was a winner, but on the whole, it was worth it getting at least another season to kind of see where it would have went. But I mean, at the end of the day, this to me was like a blend of kind of like again some next level puppetry with kind of like a Seth MacFarlane kind of experimental kind of movie premise, where again it's kind of taking something from the makers of something you loved, and they're breaching the new territory on the big screen. And I kind of had that level of interest in, where, of course, I'm a huge fan of Seth MacFarlane, and of course, I was a huge fan of the films when they came out. And unfortunately, I feel at the end of the day, much like those, with the exception of Ted, the first Ted movie, there's like a lot there, but it doesn't quite stick the landing,
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess that's my thesis on this. It was a warranted parody, so it didn't. I got what I wanted from the movie. I didn't regret seeing the movie. I didn't leave disappointed. I got the bare minimum. I got the minimum of what I wanted. I wanted a little bit more, but it warranted a trip to the theater to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess getting into the backstory a little bit here. Not a lot, but what gets us this in the first place? What gets us Brian Henson taking on this movie? Brian Henson, he had been kind of experimenting in kind of adult, kind of a more adult-oriented kind of adult content with puppetry, with a little improv show that he had done called Puppet Up. It's kind of like an improv troupe, but with Muppeteers, and even Paul Rugg, the Freakazoid, the Freakazoid writer, Tiny Toons, everything, Animaniacs more accurately, and Freakazoid. Just to the folks out there, I know you know. I'm just saying for them. Paul Rugg, he'd actually gotten in on this. It's just kind of like some. It's Henson taking a cue from the vaudevillian stand-up acts and kind of the racy vaudevillian stand-up acts, and again some kind of adult entertainment that you wouldn't get every day, and you could do kind of disassociated from kind of the Henson usual brand because all of this is under something called Henson Alternative. It's the Henson Alternative label. It's basically that cool like little fur ball that we saw for the logo at the top of the movie. That's them. So that the whole line is inspired by Offset when Jim Henson and company Jim Henson, Dave Gold. See some clips of this if you really look, but it's basically inspired by the Muppeteers that we all know and love, Offset, or basically when the camera stopped rolling, in front of live audiences and such, they'd have fun. They'd make kind of some adult jokes and just kind of have some blue kind of Muppet material offset with the characters, and they just kind of have fun with it. And Jim Henson, he's a guy who's experimenting a lot of stuff. He's always wanted to go into kind of that kind of more adult kind of stuff. He's always experimented with stuff like Dark Crystal. He's wanted to kind of push the boundaries of what you can do with kind of puppets. And he did SNL, and SNL was kind of the closest he really reamed to doing kind of adult comedy with the Muppets. So again, the earworm of the idea was from that point, and they've been working. And Brian Henson had been trying to get this movie off the ground since 2008. And the only thing that really changed through the course of this was that they kept changing the human co-star. They tried to get Jamie Foxx, and they tried to get Katherine Heigl, and eventually they landed on Melissa McCarthy, and I fear that's because people didn't give it the time of day it really deserved. I feel that's kind of how we land on Melissa McCarthy. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. It's just kind of my fear. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that's worth noting is so eventually they found a studio with STX Entertainment, and of course there's a famous lawsuit. Did you hear about the lawsuit?
Oh boy, do I ever.
Yeah, so Sesame Street, the Sesame Street Workshop of all places, they sued. Again, they didn't sue Brian Henson personally. I want to make that clear. They sued STX Entertainment. They sued the studios making the movie because in the marketing, they came up with the tagline you see before us here: "No Sesame, all Street," which landed them in hot water because they were afraid. The big fear that Sesame Street has is they're going to associate kids are going to walk into this movie thinking it's Sesame Street, and obviously it's not. And Brian Henson, we strive for the R rating to make sure that kids would not be brought to this movie. And it wasn't like hostile or anything. In the end, it kind of worked out as like free press. It was like a way of publicizing to everybody who looked into this lawsuit. It was like the judge found in their favor, obviously, because again, it's like saying we're not Sesame Street. It's a warning. No, this is not Sesame Street. Don't see this if you're into that. So, at the end of the day, it all worked out as free press. I assume there's no ill wills held. Brian Henson's kind of laughing off as like a surreal experience. Like, oh wow. Just, you never believe it. That's pretty much the backstory.
And unfortunately, I guess the last note to hit on is this movie did not do well.
Oh, right. Yeah, we should hit on that. Unfortunately, this thing is a box office flop, folks. I mean,
yeah, it really is, Dragon. I just checked to see where it was playing in the area, and it came out less than a month ago, and I just want to emphasize, like, stuff like Christopher Robin that came out at the same time is still playing in my local theater, but this movie is only playing at the cheapo, like, the $5 matinee theater.
I was really worried when I was going out to see this that it was going to be like a limited release, but thankfully that was not the case. But I'll admit, when I saw the movie, it was second week. Bear in mind, it was only the second week. I saw it like on the day it would have on a Thursday, and basically the week after the release day, and saw it with a buddy of mine, and basically there was approximately like in maybe 2 or 3 other groups, like other groups of 2 to 3 people, so roughly 10 people in the theater in total, roughly.
So the troubling thing to me about that is that, like, I don't really like, because this movie, it's kind of like got the Ted 2 syndrome of it's got some good stuff in it, but at the end of the day, it's probably a little forgettable. I just hope that it doesn't reflect badly on, like, well, I guess people don't want any Muppet stuff.
That's my fear. Tiki, that's exactly the fear. That's the fear I'm afraid it's gonna be. But here's the thing: it kind of is the nail of death. It's kind of the kiss of death on the last nail in the coffin. However you want to phrase that. Is that box office wise? And bear in mind, I know it has like maybe like a few days, or again, it's in some theaters somewhere, as you stated. The fact of the matter is, like box office wise, it hasn't even made its money back.
Yeah.
I'm saying like less than half. Well, okay, it's half, maybe like a smidge more than half, but it's not made its money back at that.
That's not good. It's not good.
That is. I have never seen TK. I've never seen a flop to that caliber in recent movie releases. In recent ones. So. Okay, that's it. I guess we should summarize the plot.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, folks. Plot goes a little something like this. Of course, folks, spoilers. There are going to be some light spoilers. I'm going to keep a little vague, but here essentially is you can probably put it together rather easily. So, Private investigator Phil Phillips takes Sandra White's blackmail case, which leads Phil to it, which puts Phil in the middle of a string of murders targeting the former television stars from the '90s series, The Happytime Gang. One of the victims is Phil's brother, Larry, otherwise known as Larry Shenanigans Phillips. This leads Phil reluctantly teaming up with his ex-partner, Connie Edwards, played by Melissa McCarthy, who, after a misfire in the field, got Phil fired and banned puppet cops as a whole entirely because it was a botched operation that much. And it was like, oh boy, some bad stuff happened there, poor Philly boy. So there are two suspects. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The two suspect the remaining stars of the Happytime Gang of killing the other ones for the royalty monies. And if you're the only one left at a certain date, then you get all the money. Because again, it's like inheriting it's like life insurance essentially, but it's a royalty thing.
It's almost kind of like the scheme from the opening of The Dark Knight in a way.
Essentially, well, you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. It's basically killing the other guy so you can get a share. Essentially, that is exactly what it is. It's contractual. It's the only difference. So along the way, Phil is framed for the crime. It's up to Connie and his awesome secretary Bubbles to prove that Phil was framed before a figure from Phil's past exacts their revenge, and that's the movie.
All right.
Right. So, oh boy, where to start? I guess we should. Where do you want to start with this, Deacon?
Do you want to start with kind of like some of the Roger Rabbit parallels? Because I do think that's one of the things I really liked about this movie.
All right, start us off there.
Yeah, well, of course, we get like the tragic backstory with Phil. We get the grizzled detective angle. We get the film noir vibes with the narration. And we get some twists and turns that I didn't see coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Here's the thing: I wouldn't go right for the Roger Rabbit comparison, but I see in the positive
I'm
aspects.
not calling it nearly as good of a movie as Roger Rabbit, of course.
I understand, but to be fair, it's been years since we've gotten a proper kind of Roger Rabbit-esque thing, even just to an extent, something more being like Roger Rabbit is not a bad thing. I feel that's something people are saying they're saying Roger Rabbit ripoff, and I feel that's unfair. I feel it's taking some cues from Roger Rabbit.
Ripoff. I think it's more kind of like a spiritual successor in a way.
That's what I'm saying. I feel that's people need to kind of broaden their horizons and factoring that in with that. But I think people when they say Roger Rabbit, that's kind of their go-to for crossover. When really they mean really good movie. It's a kind of a PI noir thing, and it has animation.
It's funny because the Roger Rabbit comparison for me, it's both like a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because of course we love Roger Rabbit, and the whole thing it does very much very much speak to Roger Rabbit. But it's a curse because nothing's going to be as good as Roger Rabbit. You know what I mean? It's like,
of course.
So when you hold it up by comparison, it's like, well, of course it's not as good as Roger Rabbit. What the hell are you talking about?
Exactly. So again, we'll speak the bridge a little bit off of the Roger Rabbit of it all here. Of course, Roger Rabbit had a lot of really kind of mind blowing, kind of next level kind of hallmarks of animation mixed with live action. Of course, a lot of kind of next level stuff. So let's talk about the puppetry.
Also, Roger Rabbit was one of the first mainstream animated movies to really get some adult humor in there.
Sure. Of course, that's very appropriate. Let's talk about spend a little time on the puppetry of it all.
Yeah, sure. Honestly, there weren't as many puppets as I was hoping for throughout the movie.
There was 120 of them.
But it didn't feel like a world inhabited by puppets, I guess. You know what I mean? It felt more like all right, there's puppets on the side. Yeah, I mean, there was a good variety. I like the some of the more interesting ones, like where Melissa McCarthy goes to the card game and meets the underdwelling puppets. Right. That's all good. I don't know. I guess I just wanted a little bit more creativity in the designs.
I don't know. I think in that design. I think we had something. I think in the porn shop, in the kind of the adult store, we had this the Vinny character. I really like that. One, there was like a sense of history between those guys, but also like kind of this skeevy looking, it was kind of bird like. I forget if he was. Oh, he's a vulture. I think he was a vulture. Kind of the skeevy looking vulture who was kind of quite pleasant. You know, it's like he's kind of a guy doing a job, and it's just like, yeah, we're just just trying to beat the online craze. Just kind of keep up with the competition. Yes. And I feel there's a lot of character built into the puppetry. I do feel you'll notice the neat thing, Tiki, is that there's puppets in every scene, and what they did to do that, and at least from what I've seen some effects demonstrations, I think there's actually some CG puppets in this movie that we've kind of flirted with very briefly in the last time we saw Muppets on the big screen in Muppets Most Wanted. They were kind of flirting with that technique of like they hadn't done CG puppetry, but they've done a few CG shots of Kermit, and of course at the end we had like the CG fireworks. I think it was at the end. And what we did here, and again, they've had like full from the looks of things. I can't swear by it, Tiki, but I'm saying I've seen some effects demonstrations, and it looks like we've had puppets created from head to toe and CG to kind of populate scenes that do not have puppets in it, which I felt was kind of seamless. And again, I didn't notice until I learned that. And what's kind of cool, and I love that they show this, that I love the end credits of the movie that shows us kind of some of the tricks behind the puppetry, and it is really informative. I love seeing the new green screen technique they've employed.
Yeah,
back in the olden days, we had puppeteers hidden and everything, and we had like Kermit the Frog dancing because of men wearing these black unitards behind him on a black background. That's how he was dancing. Now we have guys in green suits and everything to be CG'd out. And we kind of showed the legs of puppets more and everything, because of the kind of new CG advantages with the puppets. But in regards to the practical stuff, we have smoking, we got puppet death. That's a big one. I'm really impressed that we got puppet death. We've been talking about this for years. Like, we've never seen like true puppet death. We've seen Dead Tom, but Dead Tom was sentient. It doesn't count.
I guess that's one of the things I really like about the movie is how they the puppets, they really play with the idea of like what puppet anatomy would actually be like.
Yeah, because we have, like cotton on the inside. Basically, when a puppet gets its head blown off, it's cotton on the inside, like you would imagine. We have... and
then, of course, we do some terrible, terrible, terrible things with silly string.
We do. We do. Yes, we do. There's silly string. Well, folks, they're never going to sell that. This all too well. They're never going to sell those Spider-Man web slingers.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
Like Spider-Man already had like an infamous problem with that already, and now this is going to blow that up even more. So I don't think they. I don't even think they. I wonder if they sell that anymore since Homecoming. I wonder.
I don't know.
But the whole like the age of like they sold, especially during Spider-Man 2, they sold the whole like you can be Spider-Man as well. Just put on a little web gauntlet. Yes, but yeah, we see a lot of things that we've never seen in the Henson, even with the Dark Crystal. So we've never seen with drowning. Basically, when a puppet drowns, they have to be wrung out when they wash the surface. You have dogs. Death by dog was brutal. I gotta be honest. Death by dog was so hilarious, again, so hilariously mundane yet horrifying. The dog was the murder weapon. Of course, peel-offing. Oh my God, peel-offing. That sounds just awful.
Yep.
But also, speaking of peel-offing, we showed sex and drug addiction with Muppets. Well, sorry, let me rephrase. I got to be very clear with that. With puppets, not Muppets. It's a very important distinction. Yes, sex, violence, and drug addiction. So that's all kind of some next level stuff that we got here. I never imagined that we'd see. All right. So let me talk about bridging off this. Let me tell you about my favorite element of the movie. My favorite thing in this movie. I love the world building so much. World building is my favorite element of this movie. That's like the worth the price of admission for me. I love all the fascinating.
World building in this movie is like what Bright should have been.
Yes.
Like Bright is like very lazy surface level, like orc lives matter. Get it? Get it? And this is like they actually take the time to really explain things.
I gotta be honest, I wouldn't mind like a kind of a Netflix series of Happytime murders. Like, I don't need like a lot of it. It's like like a mini series or something of Happy. Like, see more of it. I wouldn't mind. I don't need it, but in regards to if they ever wanted to continue this and maybe do some more world building, like doing something on the kind of the Netflix screen. Obviously, something on the kind of small screen of Netflix might work.
I doubt that's ever going to happen. But...
I know, I'm with you there. I doubt it's ever going to happen. I'm just saying if they, I don't know. Bear in mind, I imagine Brian Henson's kind of saved up a lot, so if he wanted to fund it, he could. It's
yeah.
You never know, that Muppet money. But okay, seriously, world building though. So again, I love it's my favorite element. It's full of illogical logic, which is what I loved about it so much. I love all the illogical, like if puppets, if we ever acknowledge the fact, because we've had this before with the Muppets in 2011. Where okay, your brother is a Muppet. How does that happen? We didn't address that, but we explored like okay, kind of the relation between humans and Muppets. In this case, what we do is we look into that. We address kind of puppets in our world and the fact that we as people, we don't respond well to things that are different than ourselves. Unfortunately, therefore there would be prejudice. And we basically looked at prejudice through the lens of something so absurd yet kind of relevant. With kind of we examine the stuff that we love and the stuff that kind of we live in with this kind of great irreverent slant to it, where sugar is drug addiction. To a puppet, sugar is heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Practically. We have these great parallels of one of the ideas. It's kind of a subtle idea. I really thought was interesting. Was that when basically they're sniffing out the contract to lead the lead about the whole whoever bumps off the rest of them gets all the money and everything in that office when they're figuring that out. We're doing. We have this idea that puppets are basically seen. The reason that the prejudice is that puppets are perceived as the backstage of the Muppet Show. That's essentially how puppets are perceived. Like they're goofy and kind of like waving their arms and everything. That's the stereotype of puppets. But in reality, they're ordinary guys.
Again, that's kind of like the big Roger Rabbit parallel for me, Dragon.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, the moment in the theater I had, it was like I was a little gobsmacked by the world building. There's this one bit in the movie where the bleaching idea, like, oh my god, that's so sad and horrifying. That's so clever.
Mm-hmm.
Where Phil's brother had bleached himself to look more like a human. It's like, oh my god, that's so dark. It's so brilliant. Yes.
It's like, I feel like the world building in this movie kind of like, it's almost too good for the script.
That's the thing. I mean, that's honestly Act 1 of the movie. I think is the strongest. That's my problem with this movie is Act 3. Act 3 is where I think the movie really hits all its problems.
Okay.
But also again, we have a lot of great parallels to everything that we've seen in the Muppets, especially for example, in the whole contract thing. I gotta be honest, it reminded me of the whole Rich and Famous contract with the Orson Welles in the Muppet movie. I think it's kind of an irreverent slant at that. Goofer, for example, Goofer I think is a parody of Gonzo.
Could be.
Because he has just kind of he's the puppet of indiscernible kind of heritage. Like you don't know exactly what animal or what he's kind of a hybrid of, but he's just kind of this otherworldly looking things, like a cross between if not an alien, then like kind of whatever the Manamanat guys were. Of course, with very severe drug problems and just very poor life choices. Let's see. We play with the species of it all. With the old dogs and animals thing. This is we draw light to the whole one human effect, where Elizabeth Banks is like the one human on a show where you kind of need like one human to bounce out an old puppet cast, like you'd have on shows back in the day. Where
and even Muppet movies have the one human star.
And the way we slanted here is it's kind of like in the older days of television, the idea is you couldn't have an all black show like you could have today. You would have like an all of like one ethnicity show. You'd have like a white predominant number of white people in the cast. Or it's like you had to balance it out somewhat, and that's kind of what we do. Like there's a one kind of like a token human or something, if you will. And the idea is like these puppets they're used to people laughing at for amusement, and that's just kind of become like the tragic lifestyle of them now, where you have puppets dancing outside in light of the olden days, where it's just again it's exact team. Sorry, you had the perfect analogy. It's bright done right.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think. My favorite. Okay, so let me talk about my favorite scene in the movie. My favorite little bit in the movie. It was in the trailer, and Brian Henson's also spoken out about this. Yeah, the trailers gave away way too much footage, and he was ashamed by that. Like, oh darn it! Like all the good parts. People saw all the good parts. I love Phil. The puppet crimes in this world. The idea of like harvesting puppet parts and I use them as like lucky rabbit's feet and everything. And my favorite scene was Phil when he basically saw like a day in the life of the PI, where he uses like a crowbar and takes down these humans, and it's awesome. It was like a perfect PI scene, like a PI kind of on the job. He's just he's righting some wrongs, and he's like very Robert Mitchum-esque, where he's like, oh god, I'm getting old, I'm so out of breath at this point, just kicking the guy in the balls for 80 times. I mean, that's my favorite scene. I guess generally, take anything you want to stuff to bring up here is any characters stick out to you?
Honestly, the only characters know, and to tell you the truth, it's been a few weeks since I've watched this, so my memory isn't exactly all that fresh on it either. I do want to talk about some of the twists, though. That's really the only thing that I
Well, let me hit on a character or two, and then we'll get right into the twist. The big twist. Well, we gotta hit that.
I have a feeling we're gonna have discerning opinions on that one, Dragon, based on your opinion of Act 3.
Okay. Well, it's not necessarily. We'll get there. It's not necessarily that, but we'll get. I have different problems with Act 3, and I think you think.
Okay.
Anyway, so character was again one of my favorite characters. So again, I think Phil was Phil Phillips was my favorite performance. Bill Beretta, I thought he did an excellent job. For anyone who is not aware, it's like a little reminder call here. Bill Beretta is the Muppeteer, the performer who puppeteers some very iconic Muppet characters. He's Pepe, for example. It's the same Muppeteer who is he's Pepe. The one that he's playing a version of here is Johnny Fiamma. Johnny Fiamma is the Frank Sinatra parody, the green Muppet with the kind of the Sinatra voice. That's basically what he's kind of doing here, but as a PI. So he's Johnny Fiamma, he's Pepe, he's Bobo the bear. He's he's the current Swedish chef and the current Dr. Teeth. So see, I think that was my favorite performance. I think he sold me on all like the PI tropes that I wanted to see in a movie like this. And my other favorite in the whole movie is Bubbles. Maya Rudolph I thought was brilliant. She was everything I wanted in the movie more accurately. I thought she did a great job. She was the heart of the movie. There wasn't a lot of heart in the movie, and I think she was that heart in a good way. She was that. I love a good secretary character in the PI story, and I think she serviced that very well, and she was very useful. She was the lockpick. She had a genuine concern for Phil. So that dynamic was my favorite in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess some stuff that you start us off on getting some stuff that didn't thrill me in the movie. What do you got? Let's talk about the big twist.
I'm sorry, are we talking about cons or are we talking about the twist? You just threw me two different things here, Dragon.
I'm saying let's talk about the twist, and we'll just get into maybe it's kind of generally any cons following the twist. So let's talk about the twist itself. Let's say the twist is good. Let's talk about the twist.
Yeah, I really like the twist, to tell you the truth, and I like all the stuff about Phil's backstory. I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm really running out of steam on this thing because it's a mediocre movie, and I saw it a few weeks ago. So you'll have to forgive me. I'm really I'm kind of running out of gas on this.
Real quick, one of our friends in the comments section has posed a funny question. Monkey, it's our old friend. It's a monkey. He says, "What if the Swedish chef?" Basically, what if it was the Swedish chef who had to solve the mystery in this movie? It's pretty much the question he's posed to us here. It's quite funny. Yeah, that would be pretty hilarious. The Swedish chef tried to solve this crime. Be completely illegible. Be like that independent movie the Swedish chef was going to make. Remember, most one. But anyway, it's that on the twist itself. The whole twist of.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be blunt about this, but can we just kind of get this over with?
Sure. Can I weigh on the twist though?
Yeah, you can weigh in on the twist, but I'm just saying, I'm kind of done.
All right.
There's just not a ton to talk about with this movie, and I don't want to spin the wheels on it forever.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, just overall, so the twist I thought the twist was clever. I get that maybe it's not everybody's bag,
what's
but
fucked up is that it's been so long since I've seen the movie that I know that I like the twist, but I don't remember exactly how it goes down.
Well, I'm presuming the twist is about who the murderer is, right? That's the twist you're referring.
Yes.
So here's of course, spoilers if anyone for some reason not seen this. Twist is this, and it's really neat. So Sandy, basically, the femme fatale, the classic PI trip of the femme fatale who comes in with the case, Sandra White, who's essentially a Sharon Stone parody in various ways. Sharon Stone parody. And I love that if you look at the puppet up close, she has the puffy eyes like Sharon Stone. Looks exactly like Sharon Stone.
I will say the basic gag was one of the gags in the movie that got a little bit gratuitous for me.
I gotta tell you, I didn't mind it. I feel for the reveal it was a little twisted though. I feel once you knew who that was, I was like, oh man, that's
That's
making
what
a.
I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I don't mind doing the gag when you realize, like, oh my god, it was the basically reveal that okay, so the big trauma that Phil has endured is that he was in a position where he had to either shoot his partner was taken hostage. He had to make the kill shot for the guy holding a gun to her head, and he missed the shot, and he was kicked off the force because they thought, oh, it's a puppet not shooting another puppet, which was not the case because he missed the shot, and unfortunately, the shot that he missed went through the brick or whatever, and it shot it shot a father and a daughter was basically mourning her father, and that daughter was Sandra White getting revenge after all these years against Phil. So again, he killed her father by accident. She held a grudge, and that kind of started her on this murder spree. And that's the twist. And it is pretty. I mean, again,
I think it goes above and beyond what the actual script calls for. Honestly, like it's more creative than the script deserves in some ways.
I mean, I love the reasons for the murders and all of that, but here's the thing that gets me, Ben. I'm getting to the end here, so this is I want to hit some cons real quick with this. So the twist is fine. My issue is that the whole frame up plot. The whole frame up plot is where I'm saying, why is it just feels like okay, I'm not buying this at all, and the whole he's now been framed. We have to prove that he has not been framed. That to me felt like we're drawing from the PI well, not a clever way. It just feels like very kind of like that's by the numbers, and that's where we're hitting the whole forgettable quality of the movie that everyone's harping on. That to me is like, yeah, I'm not super. I wasn't super crazy about that. I feel Melissa McCarthy on the whole, she was passable, but it could have been anyone in that role better.
It wasn't offensively bad, but it was. Like I think with Melissa McCarthy not being offensively bad is like the best you can hope for with her, honestly.
I mean, the best role I've ever seen her in was St. Vincent. That's like the best movie I've ever seen her in. She was really good in St. Vincent. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. She's passable, but it could have been anyone. Possibly someone better, like Paul Rudd or somebody. That would have been.
Right.
Yeah, you need like another cop, and they were going to go in the male cop direction, like like a testosterone off between a puppet and like a grizzly. Like if Bruce Willis was a pleasant actor, they could have gotten Bruce Willis.
Oh God,
that would have been hysterical. But unfortunately, Bruce Willis is really difficult to work. So, also like the whole twist here's the twist I really didn't like: Jenny being alive for no reason. Like I loved it. One of the things I loved in this movie.
Fair, I almost forgot that happened.
That's the thing. I love, of course, Elizabeth Banks, who was in that Muppet show we were talking about, in the Muppets.
Yes.
Elizabeth Banks, I thought she had great chemistry with Phil, and that was a great scene they had together. I thought she delivered an excellent performance, and she was blown up, and I thought it was quite traumatic. And it's like, oh my God, that's a gutsy move. But no, we bring her back for reasons that make no sense at all. Like, why is she back? And we just knock her out. We don't do anything with that at all. It's just why. So aside from that,
I kind of feel like that speaks to kind of like the messy and mediocre script that this movie has.
And we don't utilize. We have some really funny guys in the supporting cast, like Joel McHale. Again, the Ted comparison. Joel McHale's in this movie, and I love Joel McHale, but didn't do enough with him.
Plays. Drumroll, please. Joel McHale.
Oh, sure. All right, so again, I guess the last thing here, and just getting the final thoughts, I guess, on the whole. So again, there's stuff to love about the movie, obviously, and there's some good stuff. The humor's not bad, but it's not sticking. It's not slacking in the executional. Again, like they're putting their effort. There's a lot of effort put into this movie. You see it, and again, the puppetry is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is that again, I feel in the third act we get into this. When we introduce this frame-up plot line, that's where they're running out of steam. And again, they've done all the cool stuff in the other two acts.
The structure is repetitive.
Yeah, and again, at Tiki, that's the perfect thing to say with here is that it is repetitive. The whole like, okay, they don't like each other. We're okay. Well, the guy's brother's just been murdered. Let's not do the whole. Let's not do all that right here. We kind of like we're getting a lead and like, okay, puppets are stupid, prejudice. It's like, okay, we got it. Why do we got to hammer that in every couple of seconds?
Right.
So it gets a little repetitive, and it gets kind of played out towards the third act, and the ending's really forgettable. I got to be honest, the ending is really forgettable. Okay, they patch things up, and that's about it. But again, they do so much right in those first two acts, though. That's the thing that's got me. But again, Maya Rudolph and Phil Phillips, like I got the PI movie I wanted, but I know it could have been better. That's like the only hesitation I have. It didn't go far enough in places. And again, they gave away a lot in the marketing. So again, I love the Doors. Before I'll end this off, Tiki. What do you got?
I got nothing, man. It's it's a decent movie. It's like I said, it's at its best when it emulates Roger Rabbit. But the script is it's not even bad. It's just it feels like a first draft of a script in a lot of ways.
I think that's very accurate, Tiki.
Yeah. And really, I'll just kind of leave it at that. It's a really good idea. The puppetry is good. I feel like it would have been improved by basically any other lead actor in the main human role, with all due respect to Melissa McCarthy. And at the end of the day, I think it's a shame. Like, I hope this movie doesn't put fucking Muppets back, man. That's really, I just really hope it doesn't have an adverse effect to the Muppet brand.
We need more Cranston. That's what this movie needs. A little dab of Cranston will do you.
All
right. So for me, final thoughts. I love the doors this movie opens, and I would like, again, maybe not more of this, but at the very least, I'd like more, again, more from Henson Alternative on the big screen, or even on the small screens, more from Henson Alternative, like this. It's got a lot of possibilities.
I think Henson Alternative could do a Netflix, so I just don't think it's going to have this IP attached to it.
Well, sure. I'm just saying in general, I would like, more. My fear is, again, it's taken puppetry into some other genres, which is a smart move, and it's a great move. But unfortunately, again, the box office disaster this movie has ended up being does not bode well for that. So I fear we may never see that, but I think that's a shame because this showed potential. Didn't stick the landing. Showed potential better than most give it credit for, but could be a lot better plot wise. I feel like again towards that with all the frame ups and everything. So fun, worth seeing. That's where I'm at on it. Okay.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us, and have a good night.
Silly stream.